The leather straps were already being soaked in water when Amelia Owens felt the first cold drip of terror slide down her spine, standing in the town square with her hands bound, and the entire population of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, watching her humiliation unfold under the merciless August sun of 1878. She had been accused of stealing bread from the general store, though God knew she had only taken what her dying younger brother needed to survive another day. The shopkeeper, a bitter man named Garrison who held grudges like other men held whiskey, had demanded justice in the form of public punishment. The marshal, corrupt and in Garrison's pocket, had agreed without even a proper trial. Now she stood there, 20 years old and alone in the world except for Samuel, her 12-year-old brother who was too weak with fever to even know what was happening to his only remaining family. The whipping post stood like a dark sentinel in the center of the square, its wood stained from previous punishments. Amelia's heart hammered against her ribs as Marshal Pike approached with the soaked straps, his face showing no mercy. The crowd had gathered, some looking away in shame, others eager for the spectacle. She had no one to speak for her, no family with influence, no husband to intervene. She was just another orphan trying to survive in a world that did not care whether she lived or died. "Step forward," Marshal Pike commanded, his voice carrying across the square. Amelia's legs trembled, but she forced herself to move. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her beg. She had begged enough in her life, begged her father not to drink himself to death, begged her mother's illness to release its grip before it took her too. Begging had never saved anyone she loved. The marshal grabbed her arm roughly, pulling her toward the post. She could smell the tobacco on his breath, see the cruel satisfaction in his eyes. This was not about justice. This was about power, about showing a young woman with no protection exactly how helpless she was. 10 lashes, he announced to the crowd, for thievery. Amelia closed her eyes, preparing herself for the pain. She thought of Samuel, alone in their tiny rented room above the saddle shop. She thought of how she would have to tend her own wounds afterward because there was no one else to do it. She thought of how she would still need to find food for tomorrow because the hunger would not stop just because her back was torn open. The marshal raised the strap, and then a voice, deep and steady as river stone, cut through the tension like a knife through silk. "You will strike me before her." Every head turned. Amelia's eyes flew open. A man stepped out from the crowd, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell slightly past his collar and eyes the color of storm clouds. He wore dusty trail clothes, a worn leather vest over a dark shirt, and carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who had faced down danger more times than he could count. A revolver sat on his hip, but his hand was nowhere near it. This was not a threat of violence. This was something else entirely. "Who the hell are you?" Marshal Pike demanded, his face reddening. "Name's Ryder Brennan," the man said, walking forward with measured steps until he stood between Amelia and the marshal. "And I am telling you plain that if you mean to use that strap, you will use it on me first." The crowd stirred, murmuring. Amelia stared at the stranger's back, broad and solid as a wall between her and punishment. She had never seen him before in her life. Why would he do this? "This does not concern you, stranger," Marshal Pike said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. "This woman is a thief." "Is she?" Ryder turned slightly, his eyes finding Amelia's face. Something passed between them in that moment, something Amelia could not name but felt all the way to her bones. His gaze was not cruel or dismissive. It was searching, seeking the truth. "What did you steal?" Amelia's throat was dry. "Bread for my brother. He is sick." Ryder turned back to the marshal. "Bread for a sick child. and for this you would tear open her back in the town square." "The law is the law," Garrison shouted from the crowd, pushing forward. He was a thick man with a perpetual scowl and a reputation for charging widows double for goods. "She stole from my store. She must be punished." "How much was the bread worth?" Ryder asked. 15 cents, Garrison said. Ryder reached into his pocket and pulled out a silver dollar. He flipped it through the air and Garrison caught it reflexively. "There, I have bought her crime. She owes you nothing now." "It does not work that way," Marshal Pike said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "Justice must be served." "Justice?" Ryder's voice dropped to something dangerous. "You want to beat a woman for trying to keep her brother alive. That is not justice, Marshal. That is cruelty dressed up in law's clothing." The crowd was fully engaged now, watching this confrontation unfold. Amelia saw several women nodding, their faces sympathetic. She saw men looking uncomfortable, perhaps thinking of their own sisters and daughters. The tide was shifting. Marshal Pike's face had gone from red to purple. He was a man who ruled through fear and intimidation, and this stranger was dismantling his authority with nothing but words and moral certainty. "You cannot just walk into my town and interfere with the law." "I can, and I am," Ryder said simply. "You want to use that strap, then step up and use it. But you will use it on me, on a man who can fight back and make you answer for it. Or you can put it away and let this woman go home to care for her sick brother. Your choice." The silence stretched out like pulled taffy. Amelia held her breath. She could see the calculation happening behind Marshal Pike's eyes, weighing his pride against the very real possibility that this stranger would make him regret his decision. Ryder Brennan did not look like a man who made empty threats. Finally, Marshal Pike lowered the strap. "Fine, take her. But she is not welcome in any store in this town. She can starve for all I care." "We will see about that," Ryder said. He turned to Amelia and his expression softened. "Come on, let us get you out of here." He reached for the ropes binding her wrists and carefully untied them. His hands were calloused but gentle, the hands of a man who knew both hard work and restraint. When her hands were free, Amelia rubbed her wrists where the rope had bitten into the skin. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking on the words. "No need for thanks," he said. "Can you walk?" She nodded, not trusting herself to speak again. The fear and tension were draining out of her, leaving her shaky and light-headed. Ryder placed a hand on her elbow, steadying her, and guided her away from the whipping post, away from the crowd, away from the nightmare that had almost destroyed her. They walked in silence through the streets of Eureka Springs, past the storefronts and the saloon, past the church with its white steeple pointing toward heaven. Amelia was acutely aware of his presence beside her, this stranger who had saved her from unimaginable pain. She snuck glances at his profile, trying to understand what kind of man would do such a thing. "Where do you live?" he asked. "Above the saddle shop," she said. "Down this street." They reached the narrow staircase that led to her room and Amelia stopped. "I should check on my brother." "I will come with you," Ryder said. "If you do not mind, I would like to see how the boy is doing." Amelia hesitated for only a moment before nodding. She led him up the stairs and unlocked the door to her small room. It was sparse, containing only 2 narrow beds, a table with a single chair, and a small stove. Samuel lay on one of the beds, his face flushed with fever, his breathing shallow. Ryder moved to the boy's side immediately, placing a hand on his forehead. "How long has he been like this?" 3 days, Amelia said, her voice tight with worry. "I have been trying to keep him cool, get him to eat, but he keeps getting worse." "Has he seen a doctor?" Amelia looked away, shame coloring her cheeks. "I cannot afford a doctor." Ryder was quiet for a moment, then he straightened. "Wait here." He left before Amelia could protest, his boots heavy on the stairs. She sank down on the chair, suddenly exhausted. The events of the day crashed over her like a wave. She had come so close to being destroyed, and now this stranger was offering help she had no right to expect. Samuel stirred, his eyes opening slightly. "Amelia, I am here," she said, moving to his side and taking his hot hand in hers. "Rest now. Help is coming." "You are not hurt?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "No," she said, tears stinging her eyes. "I am not hurt." He closed his eyes again, reassured. Amelia sat with him, stroking his hair, praying that whatever sickness had taken hold of him would release its grip. Ryder returned within the hour, accompanied by a doctor carrying a black bag. The doctor was an older man with kind eyes and gentle hands. He examined Samuel thoroughly while Amelia stood back, twisting her hands together nervously. "Pneumonia," the doctor pronounced finally, "but caught early enough. He will need medicine, rest, and proper food. I will leave you with what he needs." He prepared several doses of medicine and left detailed instructions. When Amelia asked about payment, he simply shook his head. "Already taken care of." After the doctor left, Amelia turned to Ryder, who was standing by the window looking out at the street. "Why are you doing this?" He turned to face her, and in the afternoon light filtering through the window, she could see his features clearly. He had a strong jaw, a straight nose that looked like it had been broken at least once, and those remarkable gray eyes that seemed to see right through her defenses. He was handsome in a rugged, weathered way, probably in his mid-20s, with the bearing of someone who had lived hard and survived. "Because it is the right thing to do," he said simply. "That is not an answer," Amelia said. "No one does something for nothing. What do you want from me?" Ryder's expression shifted, something that might have been hurt flickering across his face. "I want nothing from you. Believe it or not, some people still help others because it is right, not because they expect payment." Amelia felt her cheeks flush with shame. "I am sorry. I did not mean to insult you. It is just that in my experience, men always want something." "Not all men," Ryder said quietly. He moved away from the window and picked up his hat from where he had set it on the table. "I will leave you to care for your brother. The doctor said he should start improving within a day or two if the medicine works." "Wait," Amelia said as he reached for the door. "At least tell me why you are in Eureka Springs. You said your name is Ryder Brennan, but you are clearly not from here." "I am passing through," he said. "I have been working as a ranch hand up in Kansas, but the work dried up. I am heading south looking for new opportunities." "You defended me, and you do not even know me," Amelia said. "You risked making an enemy of the marshal." Ryder shrugged. "The marshal is a bully and a coward. I have dealt with worse." He paused, his hand on the doorknob. "My mother died when I was young. My father raised me and my sister alone, taught us to stand up for what is right even when it is hard. When I saw you standing there at that post, I saw my sister. I saw someone vulnerable being punished by people who should have known better. I could not walk away." The honesty in his words struck Amelia like a physical blow. She had been so hardened by life, so used to cruelty and indifference, that simple human decency felt like a miracle. "Your sister is lucky to have a brother like you," she said softly. A shadow passed over Ryder's face. "Had she died 2 years ago, cholera." "I am so sorry," Amelia whispered. "Life is hard," Ryder said. "We do what we can with the time we have. Take care of your brother, Amelia. He is lucky to have you." He opened the door, and panic suddenly seized Amelia. She did not want him to leave. This stranger who had saved her, who had shown her kindness without expecting anything in return, she was not ready for him to walk out of her life as suddenly as he had walked into it. "Will you come back?" she asked before she could stop herself. Ryder paused in the doorway, looking back at her. Something shifted in his expression, something warm and promising. "Do you want me to?" Yes, Amelia said, the word escaping before she could think better of it. A slow smile spread across Ryder's face, transforming his features from merely handsome to absolutely devastating. Then I will come back, tomorrow, to check on the boy. After he left, Amelia stood in the middle of her small room, her heart beating in a strange, unfamiliar rhythm. She moved to care for Samuel, giving him his medicine and cool water, but her thoughts kept drifting back to gray eyes and a steady voice saying, "You will strike me before her." That night, for the first time in months, Amelia allowed herself to hope. Ryder returned the next day as promised, bringing with him a basket of food. Amelia opened the door to find him standing there with bread, cheese, apples, and a jar of honey. "I thought you might need supplies," he said, "since Garrison banned you from the stores." "You did not have to do this," Amelia said, but she took the basket gratefully. Samuel had eaten a little broth that morning, and she was desperately hungry herself. "How is he doing?" Ryder asked, nodding toward where Samuel lay sleeping. "Better, I think. The fever broke during the night. The doctor's medicine is working." Relief washed over Ryder's face. "Good, that is very good." They stood there awkwardly for a moment, and then Amelia stepped aside. "Would you like to come in? I could make coffee." "I would like that," Ryder said. He entered the small room, seeming to fill it with his presence. Amelia busied herself with making coffee on the small stove, acutely aware of him watching her. Her dress was old and mended in several places, her hair pulled back in a simple braid. She was sure she looked like exactly what she was, a poor orphan girl struggling to survive. But when she glanced at Ryder, there was no judgment in his eyes, only interest. "Tell me about yourself," he said as she poured coffee into 2 chipped mugs. "How did you end up here in Eureka Springs?" Amelia handed him a mug and sat down on the chair, leaving him the other seat by the table. "There is not much to tell. My parents died when I was 17. Father drank himself to death. Mother succumbed to consumption. Samuel and I were left with nothing. We have been moving from town to town, trying to find work, trying to survive. We ended up here 6 months ago. I got work doing laundry and mending, but it does not pay much. Certainly not enough to keep us fed and housed properly." "You have no other family?" Ryder asked. "No one who would claim us," Amelia said bitterly. "My father had a brother, but he wanted nothing to do with us after father died, said we were not his responsibility." Ryder's jaw tightened. "Some people have no honor." "I have learned that honor is a luxury," Amelia said. "When you are hungry and desperate, honor does not fill your belly or keep a roof over your head." "I disagree," Ryder said firmly. "Honor is not a luxury, it is a choice. Every day we choose what kind of person we want to be, regardless of our circumstances. You could have abandoned your brother, saved yourself, but you chose to stay with him, to care for him, even at great cost to yourself. That is honor." Amelia felt her eyes sting with unexpected tears. No one had ever spoken to her that way before, had ever suggested that her struggles meant something more than just survival. "You are unlike anyone I have ever met, Ryder Brennan." "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" he asked, a hint of humor in his voice. "I have not decided yet," Amelia said, but she was smiling. They talked for hours, the conversation flowing easily despite their vastly different backgrounds. Ryder told her about growing up on a small farm in Missouri, about learning to work cattle and break horses, about his father's death 5 years ago, and how he had been drifting ever since, taking work where he could find it. Amelia told him about her childhood dreams, about how she had wanted to be a teacher before life had stripped away those possibilities, about the books she loved to read when she could get her hands on them. Samuel woke up while they were talking, his eyes clearer than they had been in days. Ryder moved to his bedside immediately. "Hey there, young man," he said gently. "I am Ryder, I am a friend of your sister's. How are you feeling? Tired, Samuel said, but better. Where is Amelia? Right here, Amelia said, coming to his other side. She placed her hand on his forehead and nearly cried with relief. Your fever is almost gone. I heard you crying last night, Samuel said, looking at her with worried eyes. What happened? Amelia glanced at Ryder, then back at her brother. Nothing for you to worry about. Everything is fine now. But Samuel was sharper than his years. Did something bad happen? There was some trouble, Ryder said before Amelia could deflect again. But it is resolved now. Your sister is safe and you are getting better. That is all that matters. Samuel studied Ryder with the solemn intensity of childhood. Did you help her? I did what anyone should do, Ryder said. Thank you, Samuel said seriously. Amelia is all I have. If something happened to her, I do not know what I would do. Ryder's expression softened. She is not going anywhere. I will make sure of it. It was a promise, simple and direct, and hearing it made Amelia's heart do strange things in her chest. Over the following days, Ryder became a constant presence in their lives. He brought food, helped Amelia with heavy tasks, and entertained Samuel with stories of his travels. He found work at a nearby ranch, taking a temporary position breaking horses, which gave him a reason to stay in Eureka Springs longer than he had originally planned. Amelia found herself looking forward to his visits with an intensity that both thrilled and terrified her. She had never had time for romantic notions before. Survival had always been too pressing, too immediate. But Ryder made her want things she had long ago dismissed as impossible. He made her want a future that included more than just scraping by day to day. One evening, nearly 2 weeks after the incident at the whipping post, Ryder arrived with a book tucked under his arm. Samuel was asleep, finally recovered from his illness, and Amelia was sitting by the window mending a shirt by lamplight. I brought you something, Ryder said, handing her the book. Amelia took it reverently. It was a collection of poetry by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. How did you know? You mentioned you liked poetry, Ryder said. I saw it at the bookshop in town and thought of you. Amelia ran her fingers over the cover, overwhelmed. The book represented more money than she usually saw in a month. I cannot accept this. It is too much. It is a gift, Ryder said firmly. And it would insult me to refuse it. Their eyes met, and the air between them suddenly felt charged with something electric. Amelia realized how close they were standing, close enough that she could see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes, could smell the clean scent of soap and leather that always seemed to surround him. Why are you being so kind to me? She whispered. Really, I need to understand. Ryder reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek, warm and slightly rough. Because from the moment I saw you standing in that square, trying so hard to be brave, I have not been able to think of anything else. Because when I talk to you, I feel more like myself than I have in years. Because I am falling in love with you, Amelia Owens, and I do not know how to stop it even if I wanted to. Amelia's breath caught. No one had ever said such things to her before. No one had ever looked at her the way Ryder was looking at her now, like she was precious and rare and worth protecting. You barely know me, she said, but her voice was shaking. I know enough, Ryder said. I know you are brave and loyal and stronger than anyone gives you credit for. I know you would sacrifice anything for the people you love. I know that when you smile, really smile, it feels like the sun coming out after a storm. I know that I want to spend every day learning more about you if you will let me. I have nothing to offer you, Amelia said, tears spilling down her cheeks now. I am poor and uneducated. I have no prospects, no family, no future. You have everything that matters, Ryder said fiercely. He cupped her face in both hands now, his thumbs gently wiping away her tears. "You have courage and heart and kindness. You have survived things that would have broken other people. You are not poor, Amelia. You are rich in all the ways that count." "Ryder," she breathed, his name a prayer on her lips. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to stop him, but Amelia did not want to stop him. She wanted him, with an intensity that frightened her. When his lips finally met hers, it was gentle and reverent, a kiss that spoke of promises and possibilities. Amelia had been kissed before, clumsy stolen kisses from boys who wanted to take and never give. This was nothing like that. Ryder kissed her like she was something precious, like he had all the time in the world to show her exactly how much he cared. His hands were careful on her face, his lips warm and firm against hers. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ryder rested his forehead against hers. "I am not a rich man," he said. "I do not have much to offer except my hands to work and my heart, which is already yours. But if you will have me, I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to face the world alone again." "Yes," Amelia said without hesitation. "Yes, I will have you." They kissed again, deeper this time, years of loneliness and fear melting away in the warmth of new love. When they finally separated, both were smiling, faces flushed and eyes bright. "I should go," Ryder said reluctantly. "It is getting late, and I do not want to compromise your reputation." Amelia laughed, the sound surprising them both. "I think my reputation was compromised the moment I was dragged to the whipping post." "Then I will just have to marry you and make an honest woman of you," Ryder said, grinning. The word marriage hung in the air between them, both thrilling and terrifying. "You cannot be serious," Amelia said. "We have only known each other 2 weeks." "I have never been more serious about anything in my life," Ryder said, "but I will court you properly if that is what you want." "I will wait as long as you need me to." "I do not want to wait," Amelia said, surprising herself with her boldness. "I have spent my whole life waiting for things to get better, for life to be easier, for someone to care. I do not want to wait any more." Ryder pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. Amelia rested her head against his chest, hearing the steady beat of his heart. For the first time since her parents died, she felt safe. She felt home. The next morning, Ryder arrived early with news. "The ranch where I have been working is looking for someone to cook and clean for the bunkhouse. It does not pay much, but it comes with a small cabin on the property. I told the owner about you, and he is willing to give you a trial." Amelia's heart leaped. "Truly, truly." "And he said if you have a younger brother, there are always chores that need doing around the ranch. Light work, appropriate for a boy Samuel's age, but it would mean a little extra money and a chance for him to learn ranching." It was more than Amelia had dared to hope for. A job, a home, a future that did not involve scraping by in a single room above a saddle shop. "When can I start?" "Today, if you want. I borrowed a wagon to move your things." Within hours, Amelia and Samuel were moving into a small but sturdy cabin on the Rockingham Ranch, owned by a weathered rancher named Marcus Mills, who had lost his wife the previous year. He was gruff but fair, and he made it clear that he expected honest work for honest pay. The cabin had 2 bedrooms, a real kitchen, and a porch that looked out over rolling hills dotted with cattle. To Amelia, it was a palace. Samuel ran from room to room, exclaiming over every detail, his face brighter than it had been in years. "There is even a real stove." He shouted from the kitchen. Amelia stood in the main room, overwhelmed. Ryder came up behind her, placing his hands on her shoulders. "What do you think?" "I think I must be dreaming," she said. "Things like this do not happen to people like me." "They do now," Ryder said. He turned her to face him. I spoke to Marcus about building an addition onto my quarters in the bunkhouse, but he suggested something else. He said if we were planning to marry, we could have this cabin. It is meant for families. He knows, Amelia asked, blushing. I told him, Ryder admitted. I wanted to make sure he understood my intentions were honorable. He is a good man, Amelia. He will treat you fairly. Over the following weeks, Amelia settled into her new role at the ranch. She cooked for the ranch hands, cleaned the main house, and helped with other tasks as needed. Samuel thrived on the ranch, gaining weight and color in his cheeks as he learned to care for horses and mend fences. The other ranch hands were kind to him, treating him like a younger brother. Ryder courted Amelia with a steadiness that made her fall deeper in love with him every day. He brought her wildflowers picked from the meadows. He read poetry to her in the evenings when the work was done. He taught Samuel to rope and ride, patient with the boy's mistakes and generous with his praise. Marcus Mills watched their courtship with approval. One evening he called Amelia to the main house. "Sit down, girl," he said, gesturing to a chair in his study. "I want to talk to you." Amelia sat nervously, wondering if she had done something wrong, but Marcus's expression was thoughtful rather than angry. "Ryder Brennan is a good man," he said without preamble. "One of the best I have ever had working for me. He has a skill with horses that is rare, and he is honest as the day is long. You could do a lot worse." "I know," Amelia said softly. "What you might not know is that I am getting old," Marcus continued. "I have no children, no heir to leave this ranch to. I have been thinking about what happens to the rocking M when I am gone." He leaned forward, his eyes sharp despite his years. "I have been watching you and Ryder. I see how hard you work, how you care for your brother, how you have brought life back to this place. I see potential." Amelia held her breath, not daring to hope. "I am proposing something," Marcus said. "If you and Ryder marry and stay on this ranch, work it with me, I will make you partners. Not right away, mind you. You will have to prove yourselves over time. But eventually this ranch could be yours, a legacy for you and any children you might have." Tears sprang to Amelia's eyes. "Sir, I do not know what to say." "Say you will think about it," Marcus said. "Talk to Ryder. See if it is something you both want. But know that I would be proud to have you as part of this ranch's future." That night, Amelia told Ryder about Marcus's offer. They were sitting on the porch of the cabin, watching the sun set over the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ryder was quiet for a long moment after she finished. Then he took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "Is that something you would want, to stay here, build a life on this ranch?" "I never dared to dream of something like this," Amelia admitted. "A home, security, a future. It seems too good to be true." "It is real," Ryder said. "The question is, do you want it with me?" Amelia turned to face him fully. In the fading light, he looked like something out of a dream, strong and steady and entirely hers. "I want everything with you. I love you, Ryder. I think I have loved you since the moment you stepped between me and that whipping post." "I love you too," Ryder said, his voice rough with emotion. "More than I have words to express. Marry me, Amelia. Let us build this life together." "Yes," Amelia said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, I will marry you." Ryder pulled her close and kissed her, deep and thorough, a kiss that promised forever. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "When?" Ryder asked. "When can we get married?" "As soon as possible," Amelia said. "I have waited long enough for my life to begin." They were married 3 weeks later in the small church in Eureka Springs. Samuel stood as Amelia's witness, beaming with pride in his new suit that Marcus had bought him. Marcus himself gave Amelia away, his gruff exterior cracking to show genuine affection for the young woman who had come to work for him. The church was full. filled not just with ranch hands from the Rocking M, but with townspeople who had heard the story of how Ryder had defended Amelia at the whipping post. Public opinion had turned sharply against Marshal Pike after that incident, and he had quietly left town a week earlier, replaced by a new lawman with actual integrity. Garrison, the shopkeeper, was notably absent, which suited everyone just fine. Amelia wore a simple but beautiful dress that one of the ranch hands' wives had made for her, white cotton with delicate embroidery at the collar and cuffs. She carried a bouquet of wildflowers that Samuel had picked that morning. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, the way Ryder loved it. When she walked down the aisle and saw Ryder waiting for her at the altar, his eyes shining with love and promise, Amelia felt her heart swell until she thought it might burst. This man, this wonderful, honorable man, had chosen her, had seen her at her lowest moment, and decided she was worth fighting for. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt. When the preacher asked if anyone objected to the union, the silence was absolute and supportive. When Ryder slipped a simple gold band on her finger, his hands were shaking slightly, betraying his emotion. "I promise to love you, protect you, and stand by you for all the days of my life," he said, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. "You are my heart, Amelia, my home, my everything." Amelia had to blink back tears to speak her own vows. "I promise to love you with everything I am, to be your partner in all things, to build a life with you that honors the sacrifice you made for me. You saved me, Ryder, in every way a person can be saved." When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, Ryder kissed her with such tenderness that several people in the congregation wiped away tears. It was a kiss that spoke of new beginnings, of hope snatched from the jaws of despair, of love that had bloomed in the unlikeliest of circumstances. The reception was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and food provided by every family in attendance. There was music and dancing, laughter and celebration. Samuel danced with Amelia, standing on her feet like he had when he was small, both of them laughing. Marcus made a toast that was characteristically gruff, but warm, welcoming Amelia officially into the ranch family. As the sun set and the party continued, Ryder pulled Amelia away from the crowd, leading her down to the creek that ran through the property. The water babbled over smooth stones, catching the last rays of daylight. "Mrs. Brennan," Ryder said, testing out the name. "I like the sound of that." "So do I," Amelia said, leaning into his embrace. "Though I am not sure I believe this is real yet, that I am truly your wife." "Believe it," Ryder said, tilting her chin up to look at him. "You are mine, and I am yours for as long as we both shall live." He kissed her again, slower this time, with the lazy confidence of a man who knew he had all the time in the world. Amelia melted into him, marveling at how safe she felt, how cherished. "I keep thinking about that day in the square," she said when they came up for air. "How close I came to being destroyed, and then you appeared like an answer to a prayer I had not even known to pray." "I think about it too," Ryder admitted. "About what might have happened if I had not been there, if I had looked away like so many others did. The thought terrifies me." "But you were there," Amelia said firmly. "You chose to stand up, to risk yourself for a stranger. That is who you are, Ryder. That is the man I fell in love with." "I am no hero," Ryder said, uncomfortable with the praise. "You are my hero," Amelia said. "That is enough." They stood together by the creek as darkness fell, wrapped in each other's arms, beginning their life together under a sky full of stars. The first year of their marriage was not easy. Building a life together required hard work, patience, and compromise. There were arguments about money and decisions, frustrations about the harsh realities of ranch life. But through it all, the love between Ryder and Amelia only deepened. Ryder proved to be everything Amelia could have hoped for in a husband. He was patient and kind, never raising his voice even when frustrated. He respected her opinions and sought her counsel on important decisions. He made her laugh with his dry humor and held her when the memories of her past became overwhelming. Amelia threw herself into making the cabin a home. She planted a garden, sewed curtains for the windows, and filled the rooms with small touches that made the space uniquely theirs. She continued her work cooking for the ranch, but now it felt different. She was not just an employee barely scraping by. She was building something, part of a larger community. Samuel flourished under Ryder's guidance. The boy had taken to ranch work with enthusiasm, learning quickly and working hard despite his young age. Ryder treated him like the younger brother he had always wanted, teaching him not just skills but values. How to treat others with respect, how to stand up for what is right, how to be the kind of man people could depend on. Marcus kept his word, gradually involving Ryder and Amelia more in the running of the ranch. He taught them about managing cattle, dealing with buyers, and planning for the future. His health was declining slowly but steadily, and he wanted to ensure the rocking M would be in good hands when he was gone. One evening in early spring, about a year after their wedding, Amelia stood at the window watching Ryder work with a particularly difficult horse in the corral. He moved with such confidence and skill, speaking softly to the animal, patient with its fear. She rested her hand on her stomach, feeling the slight swell there, and smiled. She had suspected for a few weeks but had not said anything, wanting to be certain. This morning the doctor in town had confirmed it. She was going to have a baby. Ryder's baby. A new life created from their love. The thought filled her with a mixture of joy and terror. She had no mother to guide her through this, no female relatives to offer advice. But she had Ryder, and she had the community of women at the ranch who had already begun to feel like family. When Ryder came in for dinner that evening, sweaty and tired but smiling, Amelia decided not to wait. She met him at the door, standing on tiptoe to kiss him. "You are in a good mood," he observed, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I have news," Amelia said, her heart pounding. "Good news." Ryder pulled back to look at her face, his expression shifting to concern. "What is it? Is Samuel all right?" "Samuel is fine. Everyone is fine." "Better than fine." Amelia took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "We are going to have a baby." For a moment Ryder just stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then his face broke into the widest smile she had ever seen. "Truly, a baby, truly," Amelia confirmed, laughing at his reaction. "In about 6 months." Ryder let out a whoop of joy and picked her up, spinning her around. "We are going to be parents, Amelia, we are going to have a family." He set her down carefully, suddenly worried. "Should I have done that? I did not hurt you, did I?" "I am fine," Amelia assured him. "I am pregnant, not made of glass." But Ryder was already fussing over her, insisting she sit down, asking what she needed if she was feeling well. His concern was endearing even as it was slightly overwhelming. "Ryder," Amelia said, taking his face in her hands. "Breathe. I am all right." "We are all right." He took a deep breath, then laughed at himself. "I am sorry. I just want everything to be perfect for you and the baby." "It already is," Amelia said. "I have you. That makes everything perfect." They told Samuel that night over dinner. The boy's reaction was immediate and enthusiastic. "I am going to be an uncle?" he asked, his eyes wide. "More like a big brother," Ryder corrected gently. "This baby will be part of our family, just like you are." Samuel's face glowed with pride and excitement. "I will teach them everything I know about horses and ranching. I will be the best big brother ever." "I have no doubt," Amelia said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. Marcus took the news with his characteristic gruffness, but Amelia could see the pleasure in his eyes. "About time," he said. "A ranch needs children, needs new life." He paused, then added more softly, "Your baby will be lucky to have you as parents." As Amelia's pregnancy progressed, the entire ranch seemed to rally around her. The ranch hands' wives brought gifts and advice. Marcus had Ryder build a cradle in the workshop, working on it during the evenings with careful attention to detail. Samuel collected rocks and interesting sticks that he declared would be perfect toys for the baby. Ryder was attentive to the point of being overbearing at times, but Amelia found his concerns sweet rather than annoying. He worried constantly about her health, making sure she did not work too hard, that she ate enough, that she rested properly. At night, he would place his hand on her growing stomach, feeling the baby kick, his face filled with wonder. "Do you think it is a boy or a girl?" he asked one night as they lay in bed, his hand making slow circles on her belly. "I do not know," Amelia said. "Which would you prefer?" "Either," Ryder said immediately. "As long as you are both healthy, I do not care, though I will admit the thought of a daughter with your eyes and your spirit fills me with joy." "And terror," Amelia teased. "Every father is terrified of having daughters." "Terrified that I will have to beat off suitors with a stick," Ryder agreed, grinning. "But yes, also filled with joy at the thought of a little girl to spoil and protect." "What about a son?" Amelia asked. "A son would be wonderful too," Ryder said. "Someone to teach and guide. To pass on everything my father taught me about being a good man." His expression turned more serious. "I want our children to grow up differently than we did, Amelia. I want them to feel safe and loved every single day. I want them to have the childhood we never had." "They will," Amelia promised. "Because they have you as their father, because we will give them everything we did not have." The baby came on a hot day in September, after a labor that lasted from dawn until late afternoon. Ryder paced outside the cabin like a caged animal while the doctor and 2 ranch wives attended to Amelia. Samuel sat with him, trying to be brave but clearly frightened by his sister's cries of pain. "Is she going to be all right?" Samuel asked, his voice small. "She is strong," Ryder said, though his own fear was a living thing in his chest. "She has survived worse than this. She will be fine." But as the hours stretched on and Amelia's cries grew more anguished, Ryder's fear grew. He remembered his own mother dying in childbirth when his sister was born. He remembered the helplessness of being a child watching death steal someone he loved. The thought of losing Amelia now, after everything they had been through, was unbearable. Just when he thought he could not stand another moment outside, the door opened. One of the ranch wives, a sturdy woman named Martha, stepped out with a smile on her face. "You have a daughter," she said. "And your wife is tired but healthy." Relief hit Ryder like a physical blow. "Can I see them?" "Of course. Come on in." Ryder entered the cabin on shaking legs. Amelia was propped up in bed, her hair damp with sweat, her face pale but glowing. And in her arms, wrapped in a soft blanket, was the tiniest, most perfect human being Ryder had ever seen. "Meet your daughter," Amelia said softly, looking up at him with exhausted joy. Ryder moved to the bedside, his eyes filling with tears. The baby had a shock of dark hair and tiny, perfect features. Her eyes were closed, but her little mouth was moving in her sleep. "She is beautiful," Ryder breathed, "just like her mother." "Would you like to hold her?" Amelia asked. Ryder nodded, not trusting his voice. Amelia carefully transferred the baby into his arms, and Ryder stood there, cradling his daughter, feeling his entire world shift on its axis. This tiny person was his to protect, to love, to guide. The responsibility was overwhelming and wonderful all at once. "Hello, little one," he whispered. "I am your father, and I promise you I will spend every day of my life making sure you know how loved you are." The baby's eyes fluttered open briefly, and Ryder could have sworn she looked right at him. Then they closed again, and she settled into sleep with a tiny sigh. "What should we name her?" Ryder asked, unable to look away from his daughter's face. "I was thinking Rose," Amelia said. "Rose Brennan, because she is beautiful and perfect, and because roses bloom even in difficult soil." "Rose," Ryder repeated, testing the name. "I love it, Rose Brennan." Samuel was allowed in after a few minutes, and his reaction to his new niece was priceless. He stared at her with wide eyes, reaching out one tentative finger to touch her tiny hand. When her fingers curled around his face lit up. "She likes me," he said with wonder. "Of course she likes you," Amelia said. "You are her big brother. She is going to adore you." The first months of Rose's life were exhausting and wonderful in equal measure. She was a good baby, sleeping reasonably well and nursing eagerly. But even so, caring for an infant while managing the work of the ranch was challenging. Ryder took on as much as he could, often walking the floor with Rose at night so Amelia could sleep, changing diapers without complaint, and looking at his daughter with such obvious adoration that it made Amelia's heart ache with love. Marcus doted on the baby in his gruff way, declaring her the prettiest child he had ever seen. He would sit on the porch with her in his arms, talking to her in a soft voice no one else ever heard him use. As Rose grew, so did the ranch. With Ryder's skill with horses and Amelia's careful management of the household finances, the Rocking M became more prosperous. They acquired more land, more cattle, and hired additional hands. Marcus formally made Ryder his partner, drawing up papers with a lawyer that ensured the ranch would pass to Ryder and Amelia when he died. "You have made this place live again," Marcus told them one evening as they all sat on the porch watching Rose take her first wobbling steps at 14 months old. "You have given me something I never thought I would have: family, purpose, a legacy." "You have given us far more," Amelia said, reaching over to squeeze his weathered hand. "You gave us a chance when no one else would. You gave us a home." "We gave each other what we needed," Marcus said simply. Samuel had grown into a strapping young man of 15, tall and capable, with a way with horses that rivaled even Ryder's. He was devoted to Rose, spending hours playing with her and making her laugh. The bond between them was beautiful to watch. When Rose was 2 years old, Amelia discovered she was pregnant again. This time, the fear was less and the joy more immediate. They knew what to expect, knew they could handle it. Their son was born on a cool evening in March, arriving so quickly that he was nearly born before the doctor could arrive. Ryder delivered his own son with shaking hands and tears streaming down his face, catching the baby and placing him on Amelia's chest while they waited for the doctor. "A boy," Ryder said, his voice choked with emotion. "We have a son." They named him James after Ryder's father. James Brennan was born with a lusty cry and a full head of red gold hair that came from Amelia's side of the family. He was a more demanding baby than Rose had been, but Ryder and Amelia navigated parenthood the second time with more confidence and humor. Life settled into a rhythm. The ranch prospered. Rose grew into a bright, energetic child who followed Ryder everywhere, wanting to learn everything about ranching. James was quieter, more thoughtful, with a love of animals that manifested early. Marcus's health finally failed when Rose was 5 and James was 3. He passed away peacefully in his sleep one winter night, and the entire town turned out for his funeral. He left the ranch entirely to Ryder and Amelia, along with a letter expressing his love and gratitude for the family they had given him in his final years. "Take care of the Rocking M," the letter said, "but more importantly, take care of each other. You have built something beautiful here, something worth preserving. Amelia wept when Ryder read the letter aloud. Marcus had been more than an employer. He had been a father figure, a mentor, a friend. His loss was deeply felt by everyone who knew him, but life continued, as it always does. Ryder and Amelia took full ownership of the ranch, running it with the values Marcus had instilled in them. They were fair employers, good neighbors, and active members of the community. The Rocking M became known as one of the best ranches in Arkansas, not just for the quality of its cattle and horses, but for the integrity of its owners. Samuel stayed on the ranch, becoming Ryder's right hand and eventually foreman. He never married, claiming the ranch was his first love, though Amelia suspected there was more to the story. He was devoted to Rose and James, treating them like his own children, teaching them everything he knew. On a warm evening in early summer, 10 years after that fateful day at the whipping post, Ryder and Amelia sat on the porch of their home watching their children play in the yard. Rose, now 8, was teaching James to rope a fence post. Samuel was coaching them both, laughing at their attempts and offering gentle corrections. "Can you believe this is our life?" Amelia asked, leaning against Ryder's shoulder. "Sometimes it still feels like a dream," Ryder admitted. He wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "But then I wake up next to you every morning and I know it is real." "Do you ever regret it?" Amelia asked. "Staying here instead of moving on. You were just passing through Eureka Springs. You could have had a completely different life." "Never," Ryder said firmly. "Not for a single moment. Everything good in my life started the day I stepped between you and that whipping post. You are my life, Amelia. You and our children and this ranch. I would not change a single thing." Amelia turned to look at him, this man who had saved her in every way possible. His hair had a few threads of silver now. His face was more weathered from years working outdoors, but his eyes still held the same steady strength that had first drawn her to him. "I love you," she said simply. "More now than even on the day we married. Every year with you is better than the last." "I love you too," Ryder said, kissing her softly. "My brave, beautiful wife, my partner in everything. I wake up grateful every single day that I chose to speak up that day in the square." "We both got lucky," Amelia said. "No," Ryder corrected gently. "Luck had nothing to do with it. I saw someone who needed help and I helped. You saw someone offering kindness and you accepted it. We both made choices that brought us here. That is not luck. That is love." Rose ran up to the porch, breathless and excited. "Papa, I almost roped the post on my first try. Did you see?" "I saw," Ryder said, grinning at his daughter. "You are getting good." "Samuel says I might be better than you someday," Rose said proudly. "I do not doubt it," Ryder said. "You are fierce and determined, just like your mother." Rose beamed, then ran back to continue practicing. James followed more slowly, always observing, always thinking before acting. "They are going to do great things," Amelia said softly. "They already are," Ryder said. "They are growing up loved and safe. They are learning kindness and justice. They are going to change the world in small ways, just like we did." As the sun set over the Rocking M, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, the Brennan family gathered on the porch. Samuel joined Ryder and Amelia. Rose sat at their feet telling elaborate stories, and James curled up in Amelia's lap despite being almost too big for it. This was everything Amelia had never dared to hope for. A home filled with love, children who would never know hunger or fear, a husband who cherished her, a brother who had grown into a fine man, a legacy that would outlast them all. As the stars began to appear, Ryder took Amelia's hand and squeezed it gently. She squeezed back, a silent communication of all the love and gratitude she felt. They had built this life together, stone by stone, day by day, through hard work and unwavering love, and it had all started with a simple act of courage. A cowboy stepping between a frightened woman and a whipping post, saying words that changed both their lives forever. "You will strike me before her." Those words had been the beginning of everything. They had been the first brick in the foundation of this life, this love, this family. Years continued to pass in steady succession, each one bringing new challenges and joys. Rose grew into a young woman of striking beauty and fierce independence, as comfortable on horseback as any man and twice as stubborn. She had Ryder's steady courage and Amelia's sharp intelligence, a combination that made her formidable. James was quieter, more contemplative, but no less capable. He had a gift for understanding animals that went beyond training. He could calm the wildest horse, gentle the most skittish calf. He wanted to study veterinary medicine, a goal his parents supported wholeheartedly. On Rose's 18th birthday, Ryder took her aside and told her the full story of how he and Amelia met. He had told her before, in simple terms suitable for a child, but now he told her everything. The desperation, the fear, the moment of decision that changed everything. Rose listened intently, her eyes never leaving her father's face. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You could have been hurt," she finally said. "Marshal Pike could have turned on you." "Yes," Ryder agreed. "But you did it anyway," Rose continued, "because it was right." "Because I could not live with myself if I did not," Ryder said. "Rose, I am telling you this because I want you to understand something important. We all have moments in our lives where we have to choose between what is easy and what is right. Those choices define who we are. They create the lives we live. Like you chose to help Mama," Rose said. "Exactly like that," Ryder said. "That one choice led to everything else. Your mother, this ranch, you and James, all of it came from that moment of decision. I want you to remember as you go out into the world that your choices matter. That's standing up for what is right, even when it is hard, even when it costs you something. That is what makes a life worth living." Rose hugged her father tightly. "I will remember," she promised. "Thank you for being the man you are, Papa. Thank you for saving Mama. Thank you for being the kind of father who teaches by example." That conversation stayed with Rose as she grew older, guiding her decisions and shaping her character. She eventually fell in love with a young lawyer from Little Rock who came to Eureka Springs on business. He was honest and kind, with a passion for justice that reminded Rose of her father. Ryder and Amelia gave their blessing, and Rose married at 21, moving to Little Rock but visiting the ranch often. James stayed closer to home, attending veterinary school in the nearest city, but returning to the ranch every summer. He eventually opened a practice in Eureka Springs, becoming the most sought-after animal doctor in the region. He married a local schoolteacher, a gentle woman with a love of learning who reminded Amelia of her younger self. Samuel remained on the ranch until his death at 65. Never having married but surrounded by the family he had chosen. He was there for the birth of Rose's children and James's children, the proud uncle and great-uncle to a growing brood of Brennan descendants. As Ryder and Amelia grew older, they gradually turned more of the ranch operations over to James and his wife, who had moved into the foreman's house. But they never truly retired, always finding ways to contribute, to stay involved. On their 50th wedding anniversary, their children and grandchildren threw them a celebration that brought the entire town of Eureka Springs together. The church was packed with people whose lives Ryder and Amelia had touched over the decades. There were former ranch hands and their families, townspeople who remembered the infamous incident at the whipping post, and younger generations who only knew the Brennans as pillars of the community. Rose stood up to give a toast, Her own children gathered around her. 50 years ago, my father made a choice that changed not just his life and my mother's life, but the lives of everyone in this room. He chose courage over comfort. He chose justice over complacency. He chose love over indifference. And my mother chose to accept his help, to trust his honor, to build a life with him. Together, they created something beautiful. A family, yes, but also a legacy of kindness and integrity that will outlive us all. She raised her glass. To Ryder and Amelia Brennan. May we all be so lucky as to find a love like theirs. The room erupted in applause and cheers. Ryder and Amelia stood together, his arm around her waist, both of them with tears streaming down their faces. They had built something extraordinary out of the ashes of desperation and fear. They had created a life filled with love and purpose and meaning. That night, as they lay in bed in the same cabin where they had spent their wedding night 50 years earlier, Amelia rested her head on Ryder's chest, listening to his heartbeat. No regrets. She asked, an echo of a conversation they had had so many times over the years. Not a single one, Ryder said, his voice rough with age but still strong. Every day with you has been a gift, Amelia, even the hard days, especially the hard days because we faced them together. I never thanked you properly, Amelia said softly, for saving me that day. You have thanked me every day for 50 years, Ryder said, kissing the top of her head. Every smile, every laugh, every moment of joy, that has been my thanks, but if you need to hear it, you are welcome. I would do it again 1,000 times over. I know, Amelia said. That is why I love you. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, two people who had found each other in the darkest moment and built a lifetime of light together. Ryder lived to be 78, passing peacefully in his sleep with Amelia beside him. His funeral was attended by hundreds of people, spanning 3 generations of lives he had touched. Rose and James spoke of their father's courage, his kindness, his unwavering integrity. Friends and former employees shared stories of his fairness and generosity. But it was Amelia's words at the graveside that captured who Ryder truly was. He was a cowboy, she said simply, her voice carrying across the gathered crowd. Not because he wore the clothes or did the work, though he did both with pride. He was a cowboy because he embodied everything good that word represents: courage, honor, loyalty, the willingness to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. 53 years ago, he stepped between me and a whipping post and said words that changed my life. You will strike me before her. He meant it then, and he meant it every day after. He stood between me and every hardship, every challenge, every pain. He was my protector, my partner, my love. The world is lesser without him, but it is infinitely better for having had him in it. Amelia lived another 5 years after Ryder's death, surrounded by her children and grandchildren on the ranch they had built together. She never remarried, declaring that she had already had the love of a lifetime and needed no other. In her final days, Rose sat by her bedside holding her hand. Amelia's once dark hair was now snow white, her face lined with the passage of years, but her eyes were still sharp and clear. Tell me about Papa again, Rose said. Tell me about the day you met. Amelia smiled, her eyes drifting closed as she remembered. I was standing in the town square, she began, her voice thin but steady. Terrified, alone, certain that my life was ending, and then I heard his voice. Strong and steady as the earth itself. You will strike me before her. I turned, and there he was, the man who would become my everything. The man who would give me a life I never dared to dream of. He loved you so much, Rose said, tears streaming down her face. And I loved him, Amelia said. Every single day, through every joy and every sorrow, that love was the greatest gift of my life. That love created you and your brother. That love built the ranch, the family, the legacy. All from one moment of courage, one man willing to stand up, one woman willing to accept help. That is all it took to change everything. Amelia passed away that night, peacefully and without pain, her hand in roses, a smile on her face. She was buried beside Ryder, their headstones side by side, united in death as they had been in life. The Rockingham Ranch continued to thrive under James's management, passed down through the generations. The story of Ryder and Amelia became family legend, told and retold to each new generation of Brennans. It became a reminder of where they came from, of the courage and love that founded their family, of the importance of standing up for what is right even when it is hard. In the town square of Eureka Springs, where the whipping post once stood, there is now a memorial garden. At its center is a bronze statue of a man and a woman standing together, his arm protectively around her shoulders. The plaque reads, "In memory of Ryder and Amelia Brennan. He had the courage to stand up. She had the strength to endure." Together they built a legacy of love, justice, and integrity that continues to inspire generations. You will strike me before her. May we all have such courage. The garden is a place where people come to sit and reflect, where children play and lovers meet. It is a reminder that one moment of courage can change everything, that love can bloom in the darkest circumstances, that the choices we make define not just our own lives but the lives of generations to come. And on warm summer evenings, if you listen carefully in that garden, you might almost hear the echo of a voice, strong and steady, saying words that changed two lives and created a legacy that would outlast them both. You will strike me before her. Those 7 words, spoken in a moment of crisis, became the foundation of a love story that spanned more than 5 decades. They represented everything Ryder Brennan was: courageous, principled, protective. They captured the moment when two souls destined to find each other finally did. The story of the cowboy who stepped between a woman and a whipping post became more than just family history. It became a parable about the power of individual action, about the ripple effects of choosing justice over convenience, about how love can grow from the most unlikely seeds. Decades after both Ryder and Amelia had passed, their great-grandchildren still visited the Rockingham Ranch, still heard the stories, still felt connected to the legacy of courage and love that had started it all. The ranch had grown and changed, adapted to new times and new challenges, but the core values instilled by Ryder and Amelia remained constant. Every generation produced at least one child who heard the story of that day in the town square and felt something shift inside them, who understood on a deep level that they carried within them the potential for that same courage, that same willingness to stand up for what is right regardless of the cost. The story was never just about a dramatic rescue, though it certainly was that. It was about what came after. About 2 people who took a moment of crisis and transformed it into a lifetime of love. About building something beautiful and lasting from the ashes of desperation and fear. It was about a man who saw someone in need and could not look away. About a woman who had the strength to accept help and the wisdom to recognize a good man when she found one. About 2 people who chose each other, day after day, year after year, building a life one decision at a time. It was about family, about legacy, about the values we pass down and the stories we tell to explain who we are and where we came from. It was about the Wild West, a time and place where justice was often harsh and life was hard, but where individuals with courage could make a real difference. Most of all, it was about love. Not the easy, romantic love of storybooks, but the deep, enduring love built on respect and trust and shared experience. the love that survives hardship and grows stronger through adversity, the love that creates families and builds communities and changes the world in small but significant ways. Ryder and Amelia Brennan were not famous outside of Eureka Springs and the surrounding area. They were not written about in history books or commemorated in grand monuments. They were simply two people who lived their lives with integrity and love, who raised their children to value justice and kindness, who built something lasting in a harsh and unforgiving time. But to their descendants, to the community they helped build, to everyone whose life they touched, they were giants. They were proof that one person standing up can make a difference. That love found in the darkest moment can be the strongest love of all. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. The legacy of that day in the town square lived on long after everyone who witnessed it had died. It lived in the values of the Brennan family, in the prosperity of the Rockingham Ranch, in the memorial garden where the whipping post once stood, and in the hearts of everyone who heard the story and felt inspired to be braver, kinder, more just. And so the story ends where it began, in a town square in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, in the year 1878, with a cowboy making a choice that would echo through generations. A choice to stand between cruelty and innocence, between power and vulnerability, between despair and hope. You will strike me before her. 7 words, 1 moment, a lifetime of love, a legacy that would never die.